Welcome to Soundspell. Hello, hello. You're listening to Soundspell, and this is my 2K Q&A. I'm excited to be talking to you guys like this. It's definitely a new experience, and I wanted to cover just a few brief things before we get into the actual questions. First of all, if you're watching on YouTube, you will be seeing a time lapse of some art that I have done for one of the characters on my channel. So I hope you enjoy that. Otherwise, if you are on Patreon listening to this audio, you can do whatever you want to occupy yourself while you're listening, I suppose. And speaking of Patreon, I tried to answer as many questions as possible, include as many questions as possible in the YouTube video, but some of them will be for patrons only. So just keep that in mind. If you are listening on YouTube and you don't hear your question, it's either because it is included in the Patreon only version, or there are a very, very, very small number of questions that I did not answer. And that was for a couple of reasons. Maybe I felt that they were too personal, or I didn't know how to answer them. But just know, I wasn't offended by any of the questions you asked. I just felt that there were just a couple that I wasn't going to be able to answer in this recording. Okay, if you have submitted a question that included multiple questions in one, I may have split it up and put them in different places. So if you only hear part of the question that you asked, keep in mind that the rest of it may be answered later on in the video. What else? Two more things. Some of the questions are similar to each other. If they were basically the exact same question, then I will combine them and credit all of the people who asked. But if they are slightly different from each other, then I did my best to give some new details and unique answers in each question. And then, last thing, I have split this Q&A into two sections. The first section will be questions related to my work and my channel, and the second section are questions that are related to me as a person. And I've just realized I said two more things, and of course there's actually three more things. The last thing is that at the end of this video, I will have just a couple of my own questions to ask you guys that you can answer in the comments if you would be willing to. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so let's get started. Why did you begin making hypnotic audios? This is from Cicely. Hi, Cicely. Originally, I started by making vanilla roleplay audios. Looking back on them, I don't think they're that good anymore, but they did help me learn a lot about audio editing and starting a channel. But as I got more interested in hypnosis, I felt like it would be something that I would be able to do in a unique way, and I thought it would be fun. So I tried a test run, and it went way better than I expected. How did you start this kind of work? From Arctic Moon. Again, I started with just regular ASMR roleplay audios. That first series that I made was based on a meme idea, a joke idea that a friend and I made up. But towards the end of that series, I decided to try the hypnosis and it was supposed to be a one-off, but I ended up canceling my next planned ASMR roleplay series to focus on hypnosis. I do technically have that entire series recorded. It's like 20 episodes or something, and they're just sitting in my computer, unedited, alone, dusty. Yeah, they're still there. What gives you the motivation to write? This is from Briggs. Motivation is something that I can elaborate a little bit more on. See, I too have fallen into the trap of believing that motivation is A, necessary in order to accomplish artistic tasks, and B, something that only comes from within, like personal willpower or something. However, I have found that I am much more successful when I remove the thought of motivation from the equation entirely. It doesn't matter if I'm motivated to do something, because I've set a plan for the day or for a specific project, and all I need to do is follow the plan. The most important part is setting the plan, or the intention. Even if the intention is only, I'm going to take a break and not do literally anything for an hour so that I can get some ideas cooking in my brain. If you focus on an intention, motivation doesn't matter as much. Plus, I don't always accomplish what I set out to do in the day. Sometimes I only do parts of what I planned, and sometimes I do something completely different. But the point is that the intention got me to start working, and I was able to make progress. Whatever I don't finish can wait until the next day. So I hope this helps. What inspirations do you draw on for your audios? And this is from both B Squared and Briggs. And the answer is a mix of basic fantasy ideas, concepts or situations or characters that I've been drawn to, or ones that I find attractive, and the things that I see are popular among the masses. It's a combination of all of those things. How do you come up with such wonderful ideas? And I just want to say thank you. This is Arctic Moon again. Thank you. I'm glad you think they're wonderful. This is a good question. Other questions have asked about certain parts of how I come up with ideas, but what I'll add with this question is that I just really love making stories, and I really love compelling characters with complexity and depth. So most of my audios are either inspired by things I like or by things that I know are popular, usually with my own twist on them. But I wouldn't tackle an idea if I didn't like at least some part of it myself. What inspires your characters? From Caleb T. Hi, Caleb. Thank you for submitting a question. And the answer depends on the character a little bit. Generally, there is some kind of attitude or intention that I want to portray. For example, I knew that I wanted Havelock to come off as very innocent and welcoming before things got serious, like a real siren. Or with the Forest King, who is a very mysterious character that tries to lure you in without you knowing. Then I think about what they want, how they might have gotten to this place, what kind of quirks they might have, what they care about, and things like that. And there is some secret lore about the Forest King especially that hasn't been revealed yet, and I'm not completely sure how or when that will come out, but you can look forward to that. Are any of the audios inspired by your own personal fantasies? If so, do you imagine yourself in the listener's position or the characters? It's from Cicely. And the answer is absolutely. And how I imagine myself depends on the audio. Do you listen to your own audios often? And this person said that they don't need credit, and I wasn't sure if that meant that you don't want it or you don't care. So to play it safe, I am not going to name them, but I do know who you are, and I really appreciate you, like, so much. So you know who you are, I hope. I do listen to my own audios, occasionally just to enjoy them, but a lot of times I'm listening to them to study them and look for improvements or things that I want to do more of. And I also listen to audios a lot when I'm working on sequels. Out of all of your characters, are there any that you feel have personalities similar to your own? This is from Anonymous, one of many. Anonymous, hello, welcome. Thank you for your question. All of my characters have tiny bits of me in them, especially when it comes to the voices. I may write the script with a certain intention, but when I record, the tone and delivery is all swayed by who I am. All that said, I find solidarity with Havelock and Moth. Although none of my characters are super close to how I normally am. Most of them don't really talk like I do normally, so that makes it harder to choose too, but vibes only, probably some mix of Havelock, Moth, maybe a little bit of Solaris, and maybe a little bit of Rook or Elena. Pixie says, "Hi Spell, I love your work, and I love how soothing, magical, and even how fun your audios can be." Thank you, Pixie. I really appreciate it. My question for you is, I've always been curious. When you create your audios, do they come from personal experiences and aspects of your personality? Or are they more focused on crafting immersive and comforting experiences for others? When I'm working on audios, I definitely focus more on making the experience pleasant for someone who's listening. That being said, I think a lot about my personal experiences and beliefs while I'm making them too, but the listener's experience trumps everything else. Even if there's something that I think might be cool to add in, if I ultimately decide that it would make the audio worse for the majority of listeners, I won't include it. Which of your characters is your favorite to write for? And this is from Caleb T again. The answer is currently one you haven't met yet. Whose voice was the hardest for you to do, and whose was the easiest? From Anonymous. A few of them were difficult, notably Raylan, because I was trying to do something high and breathy in a period of time where my voice was recovering and wasn't quite capable of achieving the tone that I wanted. Morel felt difficult because I was pushing myself fairly deep in my register for what I'm capable of sustaining over a long period of time. Rook was difficult at the beginning because I couldn't nail down his character right away, and that's the same with Kaveh. Peplum 2 and 3 were difficult because I was recording over a year after the first one and trying to mimic a very unique tone. And Peplum 4 and 5 will probably be hard as well. The easiest were probably Havelock because I wasn't putting a ton of pressure on myself. Taffrail. He felt very fun and mostly natural to do. I like the playful and mercurial tone a lot. Natare was fairly easy once I stopped caring if her accent sounded perfect. But the first introduction to a character is always easier than any sequel. To be honest, most of my scripts have some level of difficulty to them because I insist on challenging myself. Which is your favorite to voice? From Caleb T. And I would say maybe Peplum, although I also really loved Harakath. She was really fun. What is your process for finding a voice for your characters? Is it usually just a natural tone that you settle into, or do you try a few and choose one to go with? From Anonymous. Sometimes I am able to pick up a voice right away just based on how I've written a script, but a lot of times I do need to kind of play around with the voice for a little while before I record. And then maybe 3 or 4 times so far over the course of this channel, I have actually had to re-record the entire script because when I sat down to edit, I realized that this just was not the right voice for them, even though I thought it was when I recorded it the first time. Out of all of your characters, which one are you the most proud of? Cicely. There are things about each character that I'm proud of. I would say that there are only maybe 2 or 3 characters in total that I just really don't like, and I mostly pretend they don't exist unless I have to acknowledge them. And I think my answer to this is also heavily influenced by the public response, because I have to say Peplum. He's the most fully fleshed and the most complex character I've made for the channel, at least in the sense that you can come to know his complexities through the audios, while for other complex characters, I'm the only one who knows the details. What part of the creative process is most challenging for you? Anonymous. Staying consistent. I'm the kind that finds it very difficult to work if I'm not feeling passionate about something. So it's been a big challenge for me to get everything done and stay organized. I'm also going to take this question as an opportunity to talk just a little bit more about my creative process, because I find it interesting, and maybe someone else will too. I always start with a character concept, and sometimes a draft title, like Femboy Siren or Twin Stars. Then I hammer out their motivation and the scenario. Where are the character and the listener, and why does the character want to hypnotize the listener? The ideas for the content and focus of the trance flow after that, and I work on the script. Some scripts fly from my fingers, and some I have to torture onto the page. And then I record. I usually end up recording several takes of individual lines if I'm not satisfied with how I've delivered them. And I record all versions I will need if there will be multiple versions of the audio. I often try to write and record in batches. After that, I take things 1 or 2 audios at a time. I do several editing passes through the raw audios, choosing which version of the lines I like best, removing extraneous sounds or mistakes, removing unwanted breaths, clicks, etc. Then I pay specific attention to volume. I adjust whatever needs to be fixed, which is usually quite a lot to make it balanced. After that come any desired special effects, not including echo. That comes later. Finally, I move on to the sound effects mixing stage. I decide what ambient sound and binaural tone I want. I listen to the audio and make a plan for what sound effects I'll need. Footsteps, rustling fabric or clothes, magic, anything relevant to the script. If I don't have the sound effects I need, I look for them and download them, or rarely I will record them myself. I decide if I want to use ASMR triggers and which ones. I start placing the sound effects meticulously. For files with a heavy soundscape, it takes a while. At some point during this process, or after the SFX mixing, I write descriptions for the files. I often make the art pretty early on, but not always. Then I go to Canva. I pull together the icon and the art cards. If the file will be going on YouTube or another video platform, I design the video in Canva, export it to video editing software, and put it together. Canva design always takes way too long because of how many times I change and test different looks, placements, fonts, colors, etc. And then finally I schedule the posts. And I would say that I relax then, but I don't really. I just resume wherever I was in the process of the audio that I've made the most progress on, or whichever one is scheduled to come next. So yeah, that's my creative process in sum. What is your favorite part of the creative process? And this is from that aforementioned person who I'm not sure if they want credit or not, and I know who you are and you're great. But for the purpose of my channel's creative process, posting a new audio is my favorite part. It always fills me with hope, and I finally get at least a little bit of a feeling of accomplishment when I do post an audio. Do you have a professional background in writing? / are you self-taught? From Marcy. I am mostly self-taught when it comes to writing. I have had some previous experience as a student writing for passion project podcasts, but this did not come with much feedback other than working with fellow students. I also took 1 or 2 creative writing courses in college, and I'm very interested in linguistics and language, so I put a lot of effort into my schooling and developing my knowledge of those topics since I was young. But otherwise, I don't have a professional background in it. Where did you learn mixing and mastering? Caleb T. I am entirely self-taught. I just learned by doing and trying to mimic what I hear in other better audios. I look up how to do things like every time I edit, and I would estimate that 60% of the functions that are available, I don't know what they do. I barely even know what mixing and mastering mean. What does your recording setup look like? What software do you use for editing? From Anonymous. I started out with a Yeti Nano microphone and a laptop, recording in my bedroom. I've since gotten an actual PC, which has made my work much easier than working on a crappy little laptop that malfunctions often. I still use the Yeti Nano, but I've used a borrowed big blue Yeti mic once or twice, and I might do that more in the future. I have used Adobe Audition for audio and Adobe Premiere for video. Since starting your channel, have you learned anything new about yourself? From Anonymous. I've definitely learned a lot about myself while maintaining this channel. I've changed a lot in the past couple of years, but if there's anything I've learned about myself directly from having this channel, it's probably that I might be above average in my ability to pick up new skills. Who or what would you say is your inspiration for making this kind of content? From Arctic Moon. Originally, my main inspiration was an ASMR channel called Hollow VA. I absolutely love his stories and his acting. He's not super active anymore, but he has had a huge influence on my style and how I tackle my audios. I wanted to be able to take the kind of character nuance and compelling storytelling that Hollow executes and bring it into a hypnotic context. Other honorable mentions would be Azeru, especially for his style of mixing immersive sound effects, and Redacted ASMR, and also Yuri Voice. Redacted and Yuri Voice, I don't know very much about their lore, but I know that it's huge, and I really admire the level of expansive world building that they've done. And there are so many more creators that I have enjoyed, but inspiration-wise, those would probably be the biggest ones. For hypnotic influences, the biggest one by far would be my own hypnotist. Both of us draw heavily from the Ericksonian style, but perhaps him more so than me. And I used to listen to a lot of different hypnotists and files, and they may have inspired me to create, but for the most part, I stick to my own style of trance. And this is actually a question that nobody asked, but I wanted to address something really quick. It's a little bit of a preventative measure. I actually really don't like being referred to as a content creator. I don't see myself as a content creator. I see myself as an artist, a hypnotist, a writer, a voice actor, etc. And those are the skills that allow me to have this platform. I know it's a super common term these days, and I don't hold it against anyone for thinking of me in that way. But I'd like to request that from now forward you avoid using that phrase to talk about me. Thank you. And next we have Ferishu Yagamaki, the mightiest fox boy. And I just wanted to say, first off, really quick, I did see your idea that you shared with me. I'm not going to read it out here because I might use it. The idea is about peplum. And I will say I've planned out 2 more audios for him to make a complete 5-part series, but I might make little extras or side stories, so your idea could definitely be used someday. But then on to the question. Do your characters live in the same universe, or are they disconnected? I know that at least your sirens exist in the same world, and I would like to know any other lore that you might want to tell us that you maybe didn't have the chance to fit in a video yet. I am actually so happy that you asked me this question. You have no idea. Okay, I'm gonna have to actively rein myself in here because I don't want to spoil too much, but many of my characters do live in the same universe. The 3 sirens are, of course, related, as they mention in their audios, and only 2 of them appear on the YouTube channel, but the 3 of them are siblings. They're siblings, right? I think they're siblings. They're not cousins, right? Oh no. Oh no. Okay, anyways. Then we have the Neverwood, which is a forest where many of my audios take place, or sometimes they take place near the Neverwood but outside of it. As of now, the characters that exist in that universe are the nature spirits, femboy witch, femboy fairy, alluring vampire, sleep spirits, femboy kitsune, humble and devoted servants, forest king, femboy crow, flower spirit, unseelie fae, twin stars, and fallen star. Plus, there are many more characters that I have planned for that. There are a few different lore things that have already been revealed, such as how Herakath, the flower spirit, knows Peplum, the femboy witch, and doesn't like him very much. But I do want to hint at some things that haven't been mentioned yet. Firstly, I already said this a little bit, but the Forest King actually has a really big secret that the listener doesn't know yet. I don't know when exactly it's going to be revealed, but when it is, it will change everything about how you think of him. I don't want to give too much detail about this because I want listeners to have the full impact when it's revealed. Secondly, one of the recent characters, the Fallen Star, actually has 2 names. Kaveh and Solaris are named after stars, but Chevelure isn't the name of a star. He used to have a different name. I'll share it here because I'm not actually sure whether it will make it into a future file or not. Chalawan. Finally, there are a few characters who actually know each other quite well that haven't given any indication of it so far, and that would be the alluring vampire Natare and the femboy kitsune Tafrael. A surprising combination, right? They also know the master of the humble and devoted servants, though not as well. And so by extension, they know Elena and verse. I'm hoping to explore this connection at least a little bit in the future. Finally, there are actually some files where the listener is implied to possibly be the same listener as in a different file. You won't necessarily be exactly the same person for every single file from the Neverwood, because some of the listeners can't be the same person. And I haven't figured out for sure which of the files are connected in this way yet, so I will probably need to devote a little bit more time to mapping that out in the future. As for other lore, I would honestly love to talk more about just psychoanalyzing different characters and pointing out some things that are going on in their heads during files. Mostly peplum, to be honest. Maybe if you would be interested in a video like that at some point, leave me a comment, let me know. But for now, let's move on to the next section of questions. Okay, you might not actually be able to tell, but I am recording part 2 about a week and a half later than part 1. I was unfortunately not able to access a computer during that time, but I'm excited to get back into it. How old are you? This is from Anonymous 1. And I'm assuming you didn't mean to put the 1 there, but I thought it was funny, so I'm including it. And as of recording and posting this, I am 25. And Arctic Moon asked me, why do they sell hot dogs in packs of 10 and hot dog buns in packs of 8? And of course, the answer is to trick you into buying more of each. Do you have a group of close friends in real life? Anonymous. And no, just one who is very precious to me. Cicely asks, are you an introvert or an extrovert? I am mostly an introvert. I'm one of those introverts that does enjoy spending time with other people, but I definitely need time to recharge afterwards. Another anonymous asks, do you have a strong sense of right and wrong, or are you more morally gray? I think that everyone's a little morally gray, myself included. We all have those topics that are exceptions to our moral codes. Also, it can take a long time to develop like a complex and broad moral code. I'm only in my mid-20s. I've only been actually thinking about things without being told what to believe for like 3 years. And then I have 2 questions that are basically the same from 2 different anonymous submissions, asking me what my MBTI or Myers-Briggs type is. I didn't remember, so I had to take the test again. I got INFP-T, also called the mediator. And I would say the basic description of this type is fairly accurate to me, but just keep in mind that it's a very generalized description and it won't actually tell you that much about who I am. So to me, this is kind of a for fun thing rather than anything serious. Are you neurodivergent? From Anonymous. Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean much to me. I used to put a lot of stock in like identifying with my diagnoses and things like that. I don't really do that anymore, mostly because I found it was actually kind of limiting my ability to move forward, to grow, to succeed at the different things that I tried, because I had these preconceived notions of what I could and couldn't do based on my diagnoses. But leaving those behind and stopping to identify with them has helped me move past them and actually improve to the point where I would say in some cases I'm not impacted very much by those neurodivergencies anymore. Some of them I'm still working on, but I am working on them. What do you do in your day-to-day? Anonymous. The answer is pretty simple. I eat, I clean, I play video games, I work, I talk with people, I draw, I craft, I take walks, I sit outside, I sit inside, I sleep. That's pretty much the most of it. And another anonymous asking, what were you like in high school? I was a dweeb. I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but I am sort of an oblivious person, and I think that was worse in high school. I was very focused on school. I had to work very hard to keep up because I was still developing skills in organization, and I was not very fast at homework. I did well overall. Socially, I struggled a bit, but I did have some friends who I really cared for. What was your favorite cartoon or show as a kid? From Anonymous. As a kid, I didn't watch many shows, but I loved the Barbie movies and High School Musical. Do you feel like you've missed anything in your childhood? If so, what? This is from Cicely again. I split up your questions into a lot of different places. If anything, I think I missed out on a little bit of childhood/teenage rebellion. I was usually too scared to go out and try fun, crazy things, and I think it would have probably been a good thing for me to step outside of my comfort zone at least a little bit. And this next question I really wanted to include, even though I don't have a good answer. The question is, what is your favorite word to say? It's from Anonymous. And I have no idea, but I really want to know. Because if I could unlock like my favorite word and then just say it whenever and get a little happy boost, that'd be great. So I'll have to be looking for one. Another one from Cicely. Favorite music artist? It definitely changes over time. You know, for like the 10-year period of time that I was a teenager, the answer almost certainly would have been Imagine Dragons every single one of those years. Although Of Monsters and Men was also really high on that list. Nowadays, I still really love Of Monsters and Men. Imagine Dragons, I've started to think of their music as a bit too negative in message. A lot of their songs are really depressing, and I'm just looking for happy music a lot. And I will say, my current artist that I listen to a lot right now also has sad songs, so that's a little ironic, but her name is Griff, and she would be probably an outlier in my musical taste. Not in terms of sound, but just in terms of most of the time I like to listen to more uplifting lyrics. Yeah. And then the following question on a similar note. What's your current musical fixation? From Caleb T. This is such an interesting question, and I feel like I just don't have a great answer for it. But I guess I will say that I always love songs that use the hammered dulcimer. If you don't know what that is, I think it's one of the coolest instruments ever, and it's rarely used in music. I want it to be in like every song I hear. One example of a song that uses this is Night Flight from the movie Mary and the Witch's Flower. It doesn't have any lyrics. It's just instrumental, but I really love that sound, and I want to find more music that uses the hammered dulcimer. If you happen to have any recommendations, please send them my way. And Cicely's back again with, do you watch anime? If so, favorite? I have watched anime, definitely a lot. I'm not currently watching any, but I've loved Boku no Hero Academia. My first were Kuroshitsuji and Hetalia. Generally though, my favorites tend to be more kooky romance, slice of life, animes that aren't too angsty. There's 3 animes that killed me and I will never watch them again even though I love them, which are Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso, Nagi no Asukara, and Kisniver. If you haven't seen them before, just proceed with caution. But I love Kurage Hime and Tsuritama. Those ones probably rank among my favorites of all time. Natsume Yujincho I never finished, but I liked it a lot. And I guess I had a lot more to say about this topic than I thought, but yeah, those are the ones that I would say are worth naming as far as the impact they made on me. There might be more that I'm forgetting, but there you have it. And then 3 different anonymous submissions asked, could you give us a short description of what you look like? Do you have fluffy/curly hair? And how would you describe your body type? So I would say I have curls. I guess they get a little fluffy if it's humid. Hey, I'm not really familiar with describing somebody's hair as fluffy, so I'm not sure what that means, but I do have curly hair. And I'm not quite petite, but I am small. I'm a little curvy and like a healthy weight for my height and age. Do you have any phobias? From Anonymous. Yes, I do. What is a pet peeve of yours? From Anonymous. Currently, when people think that they're listening or understanding you, but they're clearly not. I could go on, but I won't because it will make me upset. If you could bring anyone back from the dead, who would it be? Another Anonymous. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't. There are too many unknowns to me. Would they come back as they were when they died? If so, they might just die again, especially if they're old. If they come back as a baby, they would probably grow up to become a different person due to how they're raised. I think I'm overthinking this question too much, but that's kind of what I think of when I hear that question. If you could bring any fictional character to life, who would it be? From Anonymous. And there could be any number of answers to this question because there are so many fictional characters that I really connect with and that I really care about. But the one who was weighing most heavily on my mind when I first read this question would have been Rivali from Breath of the Wild. Currently, as I'm recording this, I'm thinking a lot about Undertale and Deltarune, so potentially one of the characters from those 2 games, but otherwise I'm not entirely sure. If you could snap your fingers and change one thing about the world, what would it be? From Anonymous. I would take away people's desire to lie to themselves. What is something people wrongly assume about you? Anonymous. It's hard for me to know the answer to this since it's about other people's perceptions, but my best guess would be that people might assume I don't like them or that I'm mad at them just because I'm shy and a little awkward. How important is beauty to you? It could be in general, or your own beauty, or the beauty you perceive of others. Anonymous. I love and appreciate beauty. I look for beauty in everything that I see. I like to surround myself with things that I find beautiful. Beautiful sights, sounds, music. I am learning to find myself beautiful and to appreciate my own beauty. In others, I find authenticity, confidence, passion, and genuineness to be beautiful. Are you more of a romantic or a realist? Anonymous. I am a romantic at heart, absolutely. Are you an emotional person? Anonymous. Yes, very much so. And Cicely asks, which emotion do you feel most strongly? And I believe the answer is shame. Another anonymous asked me, what are your pronouns in everyday life? And my response to that would be, honestly, it doesn't entirely matter. I don't really care what you call me. I think it should be fairly easy to pick up on the vibes that I put down. And if you come to the wrong conclusion, I don't care. Malti asks, would you like to share your sexual orientation? If so, how would you describe it? No label necessary. I love people for who they show themselves to be, for how they treat the world, for how they treat me, for how they live their lives, and for all that they are willing to share with me. That is all that really matters to me. And I really appreciate that you say no label necessary, because I really don't like them. That's probably clear. I think that they are a little bit reductionary. Because when we label ourselves, we stop paying attention to the nuance and we stop being curious about ourselves, and that leaves no room for growth or change. This is just my opinion. Of course, I do know what kinds of labels I would technically fit into. I just don't really identify with most of them. What makes you feel the most loved? Anonymous. When I am held, when I am listened to, when I notice small moments of thought and consideration, when I am challenged, and when I am trusted. I would say these are the times when I feel very loved. What is the most attractive feature on a person to you? Cicely. I think their voice, their smile and facial expressions, and their mannerisms. Motion is fairly important to me. Seeing a still image may inspire some level of attraction, but seeing someone in action is much more impactful to me. Do you see yourself as someone others would be lucky to have? Anonymous. I do not, except in one sense that is probably not healthy. I think that any partner would be lucky to have me due to how eager to please I am. But this eagerness is to a fault and sometimes to my detriment because I'm not always looking out for what I need. This trait and my self-opinion are both things that I'm working on improving. And then there are 2 questions from 2 different anonymous submissions. What is something that someone has said to you that really stuck, good or bad? And best compliment that you've ever received? To be honest, I have a pretty poor memory. I know that there have been moments throughout my life when I have been heavily impacted by an interaction or a kind or harsh word, but it is difficult for me to recall details of these things, sometimes even with prompting. I can feel the echo of the feelings that I felt in those moments, but the words themselves are lost to me. Another anonymous asks, are you more of a giver or a receiver? And I don't know. I wanted to say giver. That was my first thought. But the more I thought about it, the more I questioned that. So unfortunately, I'm not really sure what the answer is. Are you able to connect with others easily? Anonymous. No. As I've mentioned, socially I struggle. I wouldn't say that I really have that charisma or charm that makes interactions smooth and makes me come off as likable. I like to think that I have value as a friend if people stick around long enough to see it, but I don't really know if that's true. When was the last time you felt close to someone? Anonymous. I think I am very lucky in that I can say today. I live with my partner, and every day we get to know each other a little more, and we get to grow together a little more. Do you require a lot of attention, or do you need a lot of alone time, or both? Anonymous. I want a lot of attention, I think, and I tell myself that I need a lot of alone time. But I think the reality is somewhere in the middle. How do you think others perceive you in real life? Do you wish you were perceived differently? Anonymous. It's always so hard for me to answer these questions. Do other people know the answers? Do you guys know the answer to this question for yourself? I feel like I never know how I'm perceived. I know that I want people to see me as kind and sweet, creative and silly, easy to talk to, and someone who helps people grow just by being around. That would be something that I would like. What is your favorite thing about yourself? Anonymous. I think the only thing that I can say is my favorite thing about myself is that I can always change. No matter what it is, I can always change. Are you feeling optimistic or pessimistic or neutral about the future? Anonymous. Optimistic, I believe. And now the $1,000,000 question that I'm sure you're all dying to know. Do you think you'll ever do a face reveal? Anonymous. I don't know. It would take a lot of consideration, as right now I would care a lot if my family knew that I have this channel, but I might not always feel that way. So we'll see. Who knows what the future holds? Are you happy? Anonymous. I am. Thank you. And this last one isn't a question, but it was super cute, so I wanted to give some recognition to Anon, who said, let's see, heart, 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 heart. I think I got all the hearts. And then they said, lots of love, bye. Thank you. All right, so I've answered a lot of questions, and it took way longer than I expected. I did not know going into this how long it would take to just answer these questions. I thought it would be so quick. But here we are. And now I have a couple of questions for you guys. I would love to hear from you. If you'd be willing to answer them in the comments, I would really appreciate it. I really appreciate you tuning in to hear all of this rambling from me. And I hope that you guys are going to enjoy what I've got coming out for you in the future. All right, here are the questions. Number 1, what aspect of my audios makes you want to listen to them rather than a file from another hypnotist? What quality is unique to my work that you can't find anywhere else? And the reason I'm asking this question is because I don't know the answer. I don't know why people would choose to listen to me rather than someone else. And if there is something that you guys really like from me, I want to be able to hone in on that and refine it and improve it and really emphasize it to give you more of that. And my second question is, what do you want me to do more of? And what do you want me to try that I've never done before? I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Okay, I think that's all I got. That's all I got. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. I really appreciate you guys. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.